1. Early life and intuitive sensitivity. Ocean grew up in a small, close-knit community where everyone knew each other's names, stories, and struggles. This was a lower-income neighborhood, where financial difficulties were not just common, they were a way of life. The people here were hardworking, but their efforts often seemed to yield little reward. As a child, Ocean became deeply aware of these struggles. The adults around her were constantly juggling bills, choosing between essentials, and worrying about how to make ends meet. It wasn't unusual for neighbors to drop by, share a cup of coffee, and talk about their latest financial woes. From an early age, Ocean had an almost uncanny ability to sense what others were feeling. She could walk into a room and immediately pick up on the emotional atmosphere, understanding the undercurrents of worry, stress, or sadness that might not have been visible on the surface. This sensitivity wasn't something she questioned. It felt as natural to her as breathing. She often assumed that everyone experienced the world this way, with a heightened awareness of the emotions and needs of those around them. Her ability to sense people's emotional states, particularly around financial concerns, became second nature. It was as if she had a built-in radar for detecting when someone was struggling. When she felt these emotions, she would instinctively reach out, offering comfort or advice to those in need. This comfort often came in the form of practical suggestions, tips on stretching a budget, advice on finding additional work, or simply a listening ear. As she grew older, Ocean's understanding of her sensitivity evolved. She began to realize that not everyone could sense the things she did. While others might notice obvious signs of distress, Ocean picked up on subtler cues, the slight hesitation in someone's voice, the way their eyes would dart away when discussing money, or the forced cheerfulness that masked deeper anxiety. But even then, she didn't see her ability as anything extraordinary. She chalked it up to being observant, perhaps more so than others, but nothing more than that. In her teenage years, this sensitivity began to extend beyond just emotional states. She found that she had a knack for understanding people's ambitions, particularly when it came to business. Friends would come to her with ideas, some half-formed, others more concrete, and without much effort, Ocean would help them refine their plans. She seemed to have an innate understanding of what might work and what wouldn't, often offering suggestions that her friends found invaluable. This role as a sounding board for business ideas was something Ocean enjoyed, but she never considered it a potential career path. It felt more like a hobby or an extension of her natural inclination to help others. She had always been someone people turned to for advice, whether it was about personal problems or professional ambitions. It was simply who she was, someone who listened, who cared, and who offered solutions when she could. She believed her insights came from her education and life experiences, never realizing that something deeper was at play. By the time Ocean reached adulthood, she had fully embraced her role as a helper. She loved the feeling of being useful, of knowing that her advice could make a difference in someone's life. However, she remained unaware that her abilities were anything more than a heightened form of empathy combined with a practical mind. It wasn't until much later that she would begin to understand the true nature of her intuitive sensitivity and the deeper connection she had with the thoughts and feelings of others. 2. Career in social service and nonprofit. After graduating from college, where she earned a degree in marketing, Ocean found herself at a crossroads. While she had always been interested in business and had a natural talent for it, her deep connection to people drew her toward a career that focused on helping others. She had grown up in a community where social services and nonprofits were often the lifelines that kept families afloat, so it felt like a natural fit for her to work in these areas. Ocean started her career in social services, working for various nonprofit organizations that aimed to improve the lives of those in need. These were challenging but rewarding jobs, where she could see the direct impact of her work on the people she served. Whether it was helping a family secure housing, providing job training for the unemployed, or assisting with financial planning, Ocean threw herself into her work with passion and dedication. Despite the fulfillment she found in helping others, there was always a nagging feeling that something was missing. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but there was a sense of discontent that lingered at the edges of her mind. She loved the work, but it didn't ignite a fire within her the way she had hoped. Part of the issue, she realized, was the constant stream of complaints she encountered in her daily work. Many of her clients were stuck in cycles of despair, unable to see beyond their immediate problems. They vented their frustrations, but rarely took the steps needed to change their situations. This frustrated Ocean. She believed deeply in the power of action and was often impatient with those who seemed content to complain without seeking solutions. She wanted to empower people, to show them that they had the strength within themselves to overcome their challenges. But it was difficult work, and not everyone was ready to hear her message. In contrast, when people approached her outside of work, whether they were friends, acquaintances, or even strangers, their approach was different. These individuals often came to her with business ideas, seeking her advice on how to make their dreams a reality. Unlike her clients in social services, these people were not complaining, they were planning. They were eager to find solutions, to take the steps necessary to succeed, and this energized Ocean in a way that her day job did not. She began to notice a pattern. The people who sought her out for business advice were typically more optimistic, more willing to take risks, and more open to change. They weren't afraid to ask for help, but they also weren't content to simply vent their frustrations. They wanted to do something about their situations, and they saw Ocean as someone who could help them on their journey. This realization was both exciting and unsettling. While she enjoyed her work in nonprofits, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was meant to be doing something else, something that aligned more closely with her passion for business and her desire to see people succeed. As she continued her work, Ocean found herself increasingly drawn to these informal consultations. She started to think about how she could help more people like the ones who approached her outside of work. She began to dream of a future where she could combine her love of helping others with her natural talent for business. But how could she make that happen? And was it even possible to turn her passion into a career? These questions lingered in the back of her mind, guiding her decisions even though she wasn't fully aware of it. She began to see her work in social services as a stepping stone rather than a final destination. The question of how humans could tap into their inner strength and potential became a recurring theme in her thoughts. She didn't have the answers yet, but she knew that this was a journey she needed to continue, even if she didn't quite know where it would lead. 3. The break in search for fulfillment. After several years of dedicated work in the nonprofit sector, Ocean reached a turning point. The grant that funded her last project ran out, leaving her without a job and with a lot of time on her hands. What was meant to be a short break to recharge her batteries soon turned into something much longer, a search for fulfillment that would span years and take her across the country. With no immediate obligations tying her down, Ocean decided to take advantage of her newfound freedom. She packed her bags and set off on a journey across the United States, determined to find something that would bring her lasting happiness. Her travels took her to crowded cities, quiet towns, and everything in between. She met people from all walks of life, each with their own stories, struggles, and dreams. Along the way, she continued to offer advice and support to those she met, often falling back into the role of the helpful guide that she had played for so many years. However, despite the new experiences and the people she encountered, Ocean couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She enjoyed the freedom of being on the road, the thrill of exploring new places, and the satisfaction of helping others, but none of it brought her the fulfillment she was seeking. The happiness she found was fleeting, like the brief satisfaction of a cold drink on a hot day. It quenched her thirst in the moment, but the desire for something more always returned. In an attempt to find a deeper sense of purpose, Ocean tried her hand at entrepreneurship. She started several small businesses, each one reflecting a different aspect of her interests and skills. But despite her best efforts, none of these ventures brought her the success or the happiness she desired. She was good at what she did, but something was always lacking. It was as if she was chasing an elusive dream, one that remained just out of reach no matter how hard she tried. Throughout her journey, one thing remained constant: elOcin's love for the ocean. Every vacation she took, every place she visited, always involved some form of water. Whether it was a lake, a river, or the ocean, being near water brought her a sense of peace that she couldn't find anywhere else. She would often spend hours sitting by the water's edge, listening to the waves and letting her mind drift. It was during these moments that she felt most at ease, most connected to herself and the world around her. As the years went by, Ocean began to realize that she needed to make a change. She was approaching a milestone birthday, and the thought of entering a new decade without having found her true purpose was daunting. She knew she couldn't continue on the path she was on, searching aimlessly for something that might not exist. She needed to take control of her life, to make a decision that would bring her the fulfillment she had been seeking for so long. After much contemplation, Ocean decided it was time to do something different. She began researching potential destinations for her next vacation, considering what would make this trip truly special. She knew she wanted to be near the ocean, but she also wanted to experience something new, something that would push her out of her comfort zone and help her discover the missing piece of her life. That's when she came across St. Martin. The idea of visiting a tropical island that offered the unique opportunity to experience two different countries, French St. Martin and Dutch Sint Maarten, intrigued her. The island's reputation for stunning beaches, vibrant culture, and warm, welcoming people made it the perfect destination for the kind of transformative experience she was seeking. The more she read about the island, the more convinced she became that this was where she needed to go. With excitement and anticipation, Ocean booked her trip. As she finalized her plans, she couldn't help but feel that this was the start of something new, something that would change her life in ways she couldn't yet imagine. She was ready to embrace whatever the island had to offer, hoping that somewhere amidst the sun, sand, and sea, she would find the fulfillment she had been searching for all these years. 4. The decision to visit St. Martin as her milestone birthday drew closer. Ocean felt an undeniable pull toward St. Martin, a feeling that was both thrilling and a bit unsettling. The decision to visit the island wasn't just about having a memorable vacation. It felt like something deeper, almost like a calling. For years, she had been searching for something that would give her life meaning, and now, for the first time, she felt as though she might be on the brink of finding it. The thought of spending her birthday on a tropical island was exciting, but it was more than just the allure of sandy beaches and clear blue waters that drew her in. There was something about St. Martin that resonated with her on a deeper level, something she couldn't quite put into words. Perhaps it was the island's unique blend of cultures, with its French and Dutch influences creating a rich tapestry of traditions, languages, and flavors. Or maybe it was the island's reputation as a place of relaxation and rejuvenation, a place where people came to escape the pressures of everyday life. Whatever the reason, Ocean knew that this trip would be different from any she had taken before. She had always loved the ocean, finding peace and solace in its depths, but this time, she felt as though the ocean was calling to her in a way it never had before. There was a sense of anticipation, as if the island was waiting for her, ready to reveal a secret that had been hidden from her for so long. When the day of her departure finally arrived, Ocean could hardly contain her excitement. She boarded the plane with a sense of purpose, feeling as though she was embarking on a journey that would change her life forever. The flight to St. Martin was smooth and uneventful, allowing her plenty of time to daydream about the adventures that awaited. She imagined herself lounging on the beach, exploring the island's hidden coves, and immersing herself in the local culture. But most of all, she looked forward to the ocean, to the feeling of the waves washing over her feet and the sun warming her skin. Her flight landed at SXM early in the morning. Around 8 a.m. she was greeted by the warm Caribbean air as soon as she stepped off the plane, the sun already high in the sky despite the early hour. After a scenic ride from the airport, she checked into a charming little inn on the French side of the island. The inn was everything she had hoped for, quaint, peaceful, and perfectly situated near the beach. It was the ideal base for her explorations of both the French and Dutch sides of the island. As she entered the inn's lobby, her excitement was momentarily dampened by a strange experience. She overheard the innkeeper, Liz, grumbling about the challenges of running the inn. The frustration in Liz's voice was clear, and Ocean couldn't help but find it unprofessional. After all, hadn't the innkeeper heard the bell announcing her arrival? She felt a bit unsettled, as though she had intruded on a private moment she wasn't meant to hear. However, when Liz greeted her, it was with a warm smile, and she made no mention of the complaints Ocean had overheard. Puzzled, Ocean dismissed the thought, thinking perhaps she had misunderstood. After all, she had only one thing on her mind: getting to the beach. After receiving her key, Ocean dropped her bags in her room and made a beeline for the ocean. The beach was just a short walk from the inn, and she reached it just as the sun was beginning to rise over the horizon. The sight of the golden light reflecting off the water took her breath away, and she couldn't resist the urge to wade into the sea, letting the warm waves wash over her feet. As she stood there, gazing out at the horizon, a sense of calm overtook her, almost lulling her into sleep. Ocean stayed at the beach much longer than she had planned. As the hours passed, more people began to arrive, but she was too relaxed to mind. She had claimed a beach chair earlier in the day, and no one seemed to care that she was lounging in the prime spot. Eventually, hunger and thirst reminded her that she hadn't eaten since the plane ride. Reluctantly, she decided it was time to head back to the inn. Before leaving, she walked down to the edge of the water to rinse the sand off her legs. As she stood there, letting the waves lap at her toes, something caught her eye. A man standing a few feet away, his khaki pants getting wet as the tide came in. There was something oddly fascinating about the way the water inched up his legs, as if it were trying to reach him, to tell him something. It was in that moment, as she watched the waves rise higher around him, that she felt the first inkling that something extraordinary was about to happen, something that would change her life in ways she had never imagined.